So, are you DTFF?
Once again, here's Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football with your hosts, Jake Trowbridge and Dustin Lunt.
Hey, welcome back to DTFF, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy end of week 2 into week 3. Lots of exciting stuff. I hope your teams are all 2-0, except for my co-host Jake Trowbridge right over there, who is 0-2 in our home league. So,
why would you start a show putting me on such low ground? You're supposed to raise me up, not beat me down, Dustin.
Because it's our home league. I have to. I can't help it. I gloat when I can. Had a wonderful last minute victory over our commissioner. Going into the Monday night game, I needed like 20 points and ended up beating our commissioner by less than a point. It was terrific. I'm on cloud 9 right now. So after that slight to you, Jake, how are you doing?
I've been better. Starting this shit with 0-2. I wish I could say that all of my other leagues are doing just way better across the board than my home league. That's not the case. I think everybody's dealing with injuries. I know a good chunk of my teams are suffering through that injury apocalypse right now. And it's not getting any better if you're watching Monday Night Football. Unfortunately, hopefully you turned your eyes away at the Nick Chubb injury. They didn't show the up-close replay, and thank God, because from what I understand, it was just abysmal.
Gruesome.
So that, again, running backs have already been pretty decimated at this point.
Mm-hmm.
With holdouts, injuries, etc. Not getting any better.
No, I did not watch any of the games last night, and sounds like pretty good that I didn't. But when I woke up at 4:30 this morning, I looked at my phone. It was all Nick Chubb news, and I was like, "Fuck, another one." I was bummed. I'm just bummed. You don't ever want to see injury, and if you have a team that does not have any injuries yet, count your lucky stars, because man, the rash of injuries right now, like you said, especially the running backs, is just fucking brutal. It's just brutal.
But we can do this. That's what we're here for. We're here because you are suffering through this, and we don't want you to do it alone. And we even maybe want to help. We'll see about that portion later.
Not maybe, we definitely want to help. Come on, Jake.
Okay, we definitely want to. Maybe we will. Maybe that's the way that I should phrase it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good way to preface it. Before we talk about any more depressing news, let's talk about what we're drinking and make ourselves happy. Jake, let's start with you. What are you drinking?
I am enjoying 2 women tonight.
Oh,
say that. I know. This is from New Glarus. I know that's why they named it that, just so dorks like me can have that come out of my mouth. It's just a simple lager from New Glarus. If you know New Glarus, they're a Wisconsin specialty that specializes in one beer, Spotted Cow, that people can't get enough of. But I'm more partial to this lager. What are you drinking?
Yes. Same as I have the last couple weeks, just homebrew, working on that keg.
You getting to the bottom of that thing yet? Huh?
Gotta be getting close at this point. Okay. I haven't actually gave her the old lift to see, but it's gotta be getting close. I've been drinking enough of this that I feel like it's towards the end.
You haven't been doing your keg reps to know how much it's decreased in weight yet?
No.
Disappointed.
Pulling that out of the fridge and doing that, it's just too big of a pain in the ass. And I'm way too fucking lazy. Let's be honest.
All right. That's fine. We don't have to get into this next bit, do we? Right? We don't have to do this part on the show sheet.
I mean, other than the Nick Chubb news, is there really anything else you want to talk about?
That's not even the part I was talking about. But okay, let's skip the next 2 parts then. Let's just breeze right past both of these. For news,
I mean,
don't know.
I know just one thing I saw. There was a report that Kareem Hunt was visiting the Browns, so could be going back home to his team. Would he instantly become like a RB2?
I don't think he would. I
No?
really don't think he would, because the Browns just, for whatever reason, that's the team I was hoping he would avoid. They didn't want to use him. The last 2 years,
Right.
they really haven't wanted to use him, even on the rare occasions where Nick Chubb was banged up. Like, they just didn't put any trust in him. So it's a little strange to me. I
So
would
would
rather it
you-
be Jerome Ford by
I was going to
himself.
say, if you say Kareem Hunt does get signed, who
Mhm.
would you rather pick up if you had to make that choice on the waivers? Asking for a friend, would you pick Hunt or Ford? And
I
that's
would
something
pick.
a lot of fantasy managers will be, contemplating this week.
Yeah, for sure. I would rather pick up Ford. When Nick Chubb went out this last week, he went off. He absolutely went off. I know somebody had posted on Twitter that I saw, and I hadn't paid attention to his senior year in college, but he was a workhorse his last year in college and looked damn good doing it. So he can hold up to it. I would hope that the Browns would give it to him and let Kareem Hunt be a complimentary piece if they find him.
Mm-hmm. Nice. What other news you got here, Jake? Anything at all you want to talk about, or
I don't
just
really
we don't want to
want
deal
to
with
talk
sadness?
about. Yeah, there's just a lot of sadness. I'm sorry to any Justin Fields managers out there right now. That's really all I want to say. I don't have anything great to add on top of that. I'm just sorry
Is
that
that
you've been
pointed at me?
dealing with that. Yeah, that's my little slight for you in our home league.
Is that a direct dig
You've
at
gotten
me?
past. You've gotten past it though. You've dealt with it.
Oh, it's been rough. It has not felt
Brutal.
good. That's for damn sure.
Absolutely. But no, I think that's
Okay.
all of the injury and news we need to talk about here.
Okay. Well, then let's get into the stuff you don't want to talk about even more. And that's our beer bet from last week. Jake, this one was yours. So you had proposed to me, the Vikings running backs v. the Eagles running backs, my choice of the running back room. And I took the Eagles. And I felt pretty confident about this. I will say I did not expect it to be this lopsided. I thought it'd be a heck of a lot closer. But needless to say, I won this one. The Eagles running back room had 33.5 with just a stellar game from Swift. And the Vikings had a measly 7.8 because they couldn't hold on to the ball, apparently. So,
amongst many other issues that they had. I blame it all on the offensive line. Look, when I made this bet, or when I threw this bet out, the offensive line was supposed to be okay. And then like 2 guys ended up not playing. It was just bad. And I'm an idiot. And so because of that, I didn't even give myself the allowance of like a nice little shot. I'm doing the hard stuff. I'm paying out my Margaritaville in honor of Jimmy Buffett a couple of weeks late. Gold tequila shot here. So, sir, you'll be getting a double shot from me because this was such an absolute trouncing. I'm not even going to try.
Wow.
You are an amazing fantasy football prognosticator / genius. Cheers.
Oh, thank you.
What?
Does that one make you feel good?
I hate it.
Okay. Well, let's move on and have a little fun here. How about that? And do our drunk trade of the week.
Drunk, hammered drunk.
Drunk trade of the week.
All right. I hope I'm not lagging as badly as I was before, Dustin. You let me know. But we have a drunk trade. It came to us from YouTube. Thanks, YouTube. Also, please continue sending us in these comments on YouTube that include drunk trades because they're our absolute favorite. This one came from @EvanDonahue141 asking us to review this drunk trade for this episode. And so we do. Says he gave up Josh Allen, David Montgomery, Devontae Smith, Christian Kirk, And Jaylen Warren, this was 2 days ago that this was posted, keep in mind, receives Brock Purdy, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Cam Akers, and Christian Watson. Context. Here we go. The format, very important, 1 quarterback league. It is full PPR, and it's a pretty basic league outside of that. For Redraft, sir, said they diligently analyzed this while sipping a Bell's Two Hearted Ale. I like that beer. Good beer choice, in my opinion. Outside of the beer choice, Dustin, what do you think of this? This is pretty significant. So we didn't talk about Cam Akers at the top of the show, but he's been placed on the trade block in the actual NFL by the Rams. They don't want him. Kyron Williams took over that backfield. So that's an important part here.
Yep. Even prior to that news coming out, I did not like this trade at all for Evan Donahue. You're giving up arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Brock Purdy will not come anywhere near Josh Allen. I will put any amount of drinks on that if you so choose to want to bet me on it. You're giving up Devonta Smith, again, a very great wide receiver. I know you'd be getting his teammate in A.J. Brown, but still Devonta balling out. David Montgomery, he's going to have a very solid role. I know it's PPR, which isn't great for him, but still has a role there. Jaylen Warren has a growing role in Pittsburgh. And Christian Kirk, he's kind of whatever. He'll have his weeks, but I just don't think you're getting, especially now in lieu of this Cam Akers news, you're just not getting the better players in this deal. I mean, Brock Purdy, you could probably, I'm surprised he's not on waivers in a redraft league, to be honest. I like AJ Brown. Saquon's dinged up now. He's going to be out for maybe a few weeks. Hard to say. Cam's not playing at all. Christian Watson, we don't know when he's returning. So you're getting a bunch of injured guys basically for a very healthy team on the other side. So I'm sorry, Evan, this is not a great trade. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, this one's tough. Here's what I want to put it through a different lens. All right, I'm not going to be completely negative with this trade. When you look at the AJ Brown versus Devonta Smith, look at the AJ Brown versus Devonta Smith of it all. We'll talk about AJ Brown a little bit later in this episode. Spoiler alert! But essentially, you're looking at guys who are probably trading off most weeks about who's the stud and who is hopefully usable. So that I'll call that generously a wash at this point. Now, Saquon Barkley, when he's back and healthy, and it seems like they're actually trying to force him into a game time decision already this week. So who knows? He might come back and play this week. I kind of hope he takes the week off because Saquon playing through injury doesn't really historically bode well. But when he's back and David Montgomery dealing with his own injury actually right now, he's saying he's week to week. His coach is saying he's day to day. I don't know who to trust. But when healthy, Saquon over David Montgomery, for sure. Absolutely. Obviously. No doubt about it. Okay. Cam Akers, we throw him out. We just throw him right out into the garbage can.
Just
maybe
punt Baxter right off the bridge, huh?
Maybe he signs with a needy running back team. Like that could happen. What if the Browns end up foregoing Kareem Hunt and trade for Cam Akers? I would still rather have Jerome Ford, but at least Cam Akers could be usable in that situation. Christian Watson, when he comes back, people much smarter than me have been projecting him as the wide receiver 1 with the Green Bay Packers. I think it's a little bit overblown, but if you're looking at consensus, he's definitely a tier above Christian Kirk, I would say. So it kind of comes down to the Josh Allen aspect, and you just can't. I tried through all this. I can't configure a way that sending Josh Allen works out. So that's the part where you really took a kick in the balls there, Evan. I would say the good thing about one quarterback leagues is there's plenty of options on the waivers for you to stream.
There should be.
So,
yep.
Yeah, I do think that this was an unfortunate trade. I still very much appreciate you sending this trade in. And hopefully that Bell's Two Hearted went down nice and smooth for you.
Yep. I think generally we are on the same page with that one, Jake. But that's why we do them. Not all drunk trades are great ones. We had a good string where they weren't so bad, and you're bound to get a stinker here or there.
Most are bad. We've been unrealistically putting out these expectations, I think, because I think people only want to send the good ones in. I think that's more of what
True.
it is. There's many more drunk trades that look like this one than look like the ones we've had the last few weeks.
That is true. And you know what the best cure for resolving this drunk trade or making up for this drunk trade? Let's just do another one. Yeah, do another one. Just make more trades. Make more trades. Try to find another GM in your league that loves Brock Purdy more than you do.
ABT, always be trading.
That's my advice. That's right. Okay. I don't think I let off with this, Jake, but our main event here this evening, it's a Mirage. The listeners can't hear or see my little twinkle hands here, but that's my Mirage hands. This is what we call that. No, oh, you shut your mouth. You shut your dirty mouth. So yeah, it's a Mirage. These are player trends that we think will not continue the rest of the season. Some good, some bad, some in between. We'll let you decide. But yeah, we're confident that these trends will not continue. So, Jake, do you want to start us off this evening? Pick your position du jour to start with.
Oh, wow. I love hearing du jour come around. I'm going to start with the quarterback position. I don't know. I'm not creative enough to switch it up at this point. It's the most important position.
They're the sexiest position?
Yeah, they're the most important in the actual NFL. So I'm going to start with quarterback and talk about Trevor Lawrence. We need to talk about Trevor Lawrence. Why? Because week 1 Trevor Lawrence, much different than week 2 Trevor Lawrence. And people start to wonder about these things. He's got all these weapons now. So there's no excuses. He's well beyond his old coaching staff. There's no excuses. However, allow me to make an excuse for Trevor Lawrence, because in week 2, if you watch the game, this man had 3 extra touchdowns that were unaccounted for in his fantasy stat line because his receivers could not deign to keep both of their feet in bounds. If this was college football, he would have had 3 touchdowns on the score sheet. Literally nobody. There was actually a 4th, but it was on the same drive, so I don't count it because obviously you can't score 2 touchdowns on the same drive. But the point remains, he was just inches away from his stat line, looking like he's still a top 5 guy in fantasy football, which I maintain, spoiler, he still is. He's been spreading the ball around. That's what I like to see. He's not hyper-targeting just Calvin Ridley. He's not hyper-targeting just Christian Kirk. They're both getting into the mix. Kind of a Philadelphia Eagles situation. I would like to see Trevor Lawrence run it a little bit more. I'd like to see him scoot a little bit, but that's kind of nitpicking, I think, at this point. So Trevor Lawrence has so many better days ahead. And I didn't say this initially. I really should have led off. Quarterback 23 through week 2. And that is just mostly because last week's showing was really, really unfortunate. So don't worry about Trevor Lawrence. Trevor's going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I will stick with the quarterback here. And just for the record, I had on the show sheet, not this quarterback to start with. I had Jordan Love, who is after 2 weeks, the QB2 on the season. Yeah. I felt like that was way too low hanging fruit to be able to that's not going to continue. I think we all know that. But the homer and me really wanted to talk about him. And I still am. So there, it's my show. I can do what I want. But my quarterback is Mac Jones. He's currently at QB8. I don't think this is going to continue. When you look at the top 12 of the quarterbacks, there are players there that should not be there. And there are other quarterbacks, the aforementioned Trevor Lawrence, that are not playing well to start the year or had a couple of rough games maybe. So it's going to sort itself out here. But when you look at the top 12, as I said, you've got Kirk Cousins at 1, Jordan Love at 2, you got Russell Wilson at 4, we've got Mac Jones at 8, we've got Sam Howell at 11, Daniel Jones at 12, you got Baker just outside at 13. I mean, you're missing some of the big name quarterbacks here. I think that's just more of a function of early season. Offenses are still kind of getting their feet underneath them. Every year it happens this way, where the defenses always seem to be a little bit ahead of the offensive as far as game scripts and game planning. So I expect the offenses to pick up some steam here, and you'll see the guys that are outside those top 12 right now, like your Josh Allens, like Trevor, I expect to be there. Hopefully Justin Fields turns around, or that offense. Joe Burrow. Yeah. Lamar Jackson, I got there. There's a number of guys that we all expect to be in the top 12 that just aren't. And not that Mac Jones is playing bad, but I don't know if I trust this offense. Granted, it's looked much better with Bill O'Brien at the helm and actually having a real offensive coordinator. Shocker that would be a thing. But I just don't know that they'll continue. I mean, they've got a pretty solid schedule this year. When I was looking at the schedules moving forward, and I just don't trust it. He'll probably end up being, a middling QB2, which is fine, especially if you're in a super flex league. I just don't foresee him finishing in the top 12.
Yeah. Mac Jones, scoot aside and let the guys that everybody drafted as top 10 quarterbacks be top 10 quarterbacks. I'll say the same to Jordan Love, as you were mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jordan Love, nobody, even the biggest Packers homers cannot possibly live with that reality. So
Yes.
I'm with you 100% there. Let's talk running backs. Let's just do it. I want to talk about this running back. Raheem the Dream Mostert. Look.
Nobody calls him
Raheem Mostert. I do. They do now. Raheem Mostert being RB6 on this current stage of the season is ridiculous. Because of two things. One, Raheem Mostert is always the RB6 in a 2-game span. That's where he thrives. Is a 2-game span. When you extrapolate out much beyond that, Raheem Mostert tends to fall off pretty significantly. And most of the time, that's just because of injuries. I know we don't say injury prone on this podcast. It's not a thing. But if there's a player that's ever enticed me into saying injury prone, it is Raheem Mostert without fail. And he's now 31 years old. So while we can't predict them necessarily, a betting man might suggest that Raheem Mostert has one probably on the agenda for this year just because it's always happened. Even if that's not the case, and again, I never wish injury on any player. So if he does avoid that, which he absolutely maybe could, now we have Devin Achane waiting in the wings, lurking in the shadows. He misses week 1. He comes back and barely plays in week 2 because he's not healthy yet. And maybe he's not fully healthy in week 3. Maybe they even ease him in week 4, but it is coming sooner than later. Dustin, you believe in this probably more than anybody. He was one of your drinking buddies after all. That Devin Achane will eventually work his way into this offense and either take a huge chunk away from Raheem Mostert or just outright overtake him regardless. So I think that Raheem Mostert is a pretty obvious and clear example of trading him while the value's hot. So in redraft, if you've got a league mate that desperately needs a hole filled, but okay, let me rephrase that. If you have a league mate who needs a running back spot, my God, and they need a running back in there, trade them Raheem Mostert and free up that space for you to incorporate somebody later on. For what it's worth, Raheem Mostert has been in the league since 2015, has only had 1,000 yards, scrimmage yards total once in the NFL. I'm not going to suggest that that's going to happen again this year, so I don't think that he stays a top 10, top 15, maybe even top 20 running back.
Yeah, I thought for a second with you touting how great he's been, we were going back to like 2019 here when he was with San Francisco and was the hot commodity there for a hot minute. Thank God we're not there. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't believe in this long term. Um, I feel like this Miami backfield I know he's been showing out so far, but it wouldn't surprise me at some point if they're just like hot hand, whoever, between Jeff Wilson or A Chain as he gets more involved. Like they're just going to go with the guy that happens to be producing that week. Right now it's Mostert. It could change this next week. I don't trust it at all, especially with the coach there. He comes from a lineage of not necessarily leaning on one running back all the time and having that bell cow, and Mostert's just never been that guy. So I am right there with you, Jake. I think that is a great call. My running back here is one Breece Hall of the New York Jets. Currently coming in at RB38. Not great to start the season, but let's be honest. They've kind of run into a buzzsaw here these first couple weeks. You had week 1, Buffalo, very strong defense. They were he looked good in that game. He had that pop off of 80 yards. Other than that, though, I mean, didn't do a ton. This next game ran up against the buzzsaw that is the Dallas defense and their front seven. Only had 4 carries in the game, which is not great. But you have to remember, he's still coming back from this ACL injury. The fact that he's playing early in the season is pretty remarkable. And he looks, at moments so far this season, he's shown that pop. He's shown that explosiveness. So he is going to get worked in more. I'm sure we talked about him last week on our overreaction show. Just don't do anything crazy with him because Dalvin Cook does not look great. He's like Zeke now. I hate to say it. He's just kind of a plotter. He's going to end up vulturing touchdowns, I'm sure, at some point if the Jets can make it towards the end zone there. But Breece Hall is going to be the guy. And by the end of the season, I fully expect him to be commanding this running back room. And he will be a high-end RB2, possibly even a low-end RB1, especially with the landscape of the running backs right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, if no other reason, the injuries and all the crap that's happening with running backs right now is forcing him into being a top 12 guy by season's end. And look, I'll both eat some crow while simultaneously giving a tiny pat on the back. I'd say coming into the season, don't expect Breece Hall to come out of the gate swinging. And week 1, I looked pretty stupid for seeing that. And now week 2, it looks a little bit closer to reality there. But Dalvin Cook, like you said, just looks absolutely abysmal. So they can't rely on him and shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 rushing attempts is egregious. Breece Hall called it out as being egregious. I don't expect it to happen too much more often going forward. So I like that call.
Yeah. All right. Where to next, Jake? We got 2 positions left. Which one are we going to do?
Look, I'm going to spice things up because I don't want to end on tight end again. So we're going to talk about tight ends. We're going to talk about Kylen Granson right now, which give this man his flowers. Kylen Granson, 3rd-year tight end for the Indianapolis Colts. If you're on TikTok at all, this man is just destroying TikTok. He scored his first NFL touchdown this past week and has just been thriving on social media because of it. He's been taking couples photos with the football out in a field like you'd see for engagement photos. It's truly wonderful. With all that said, I love Kylen Granson as a person, but Kylen Granson is the tight end 8 right now. He's actually tied with the person that you're about to talk about here, Dustin, in fantasy points. And it's mostly because they don't have the guy that they really want as tight end right now, which is Jelani Woods, because Jelani Woods is on IR for the first 4 weeks of the season. Should be on schedule. Everything looks right as rain for him to come back in week 5. Once he does, he's going to eat into a big part of this role. Mo Alley Cox is who they're trusting right now as sort of the secondary guy. And it's just because, he's 6'10". Well, we got to use you. We got you here, buddy. But he's nowhere near the level of athleticism or route running that Jelani Woods is. And no offense to Kylan Granson, but neither is he at this stage in his career. So it's just kind of a waiting game. Use him while you've got him for these next couple of weeks. I think he'll be okay. He's still a touchdown dependent tight end for these next 2 weeks, but he's not a top 10 guy. And this is an opportunity to maybe trade him as well if somebody will actually come by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can't say I have much to add to that one, Jake. I think you're spot on there. I remember when he came out a couple of years ago, he was one of those guys like, oh, stash him for a few years because he's got all the upside in the world. Yeah, we saw him catch the touchdown. It's great, but I think, his fantasy relevance is fleeting at best. So if you can trade him right now, get a little draft capital or another maybe player that has more upside, I would definitely try to do that.
Sweet.
Okay, my tight end here is one Logan Thomas, tied with Mr. Granson as the 8th overall tight end. He was going to be my guy this week at tight end, regardless of the injury news. He's out with a concussion right now. He's had a history of these, so that's not great. But I just, even before the concussion, I'm just like, this is not sustainable. Part of it was just touchdown. He caught that touchdown this year or this week, which was really boosted his numbers. Not that they were terrific to begin with, but he hasn't been able to, again, not to say injury prone, but he hasn't been able to really stay healthy throughout his career. And it was nice to see him actually doing well to start the year, but this offense, there's too many other playmakers for him to just sustain the success, in my opinion. I don't see Howell hyper focusing on him. I mean, you got Robinson doing great. You got Jahan Dotson, who we both love on here. We got Terry McLaurin. I mean, you got high-powered other weapons. Eventually, the bottom was going to fall out with him. Unfortunately, due to concussion, it's going to fall a little earlier than expected. But I just never thought this was sustainable production for him throughout the year.
Yeah, and they have a very competent backup tight end in Cole Turner or John Bates. I actually looked okay as well. So, they have guys where it's not like Logan Thomas is this elite talent where they have to force him into the fold. And you're right. He's got a lot of concussions. He's got a lot of injury history in total. You want to be careful with a guy like that. You don't want to overwork him. So I think they probably start fading him out even a little bit, even if he does come back and play. So I agree.
Yeah. And I mean, he is 32 years old. It's not like he's a young tight end that's breaking out here. Like, he's had his opportunities, and you don't see the 32-year-old breakout season here all that often. So another ding against him, unfortunately.
To be fair, he is a converted quarterback turned tight end. You give that guy an extra 3 years on top of everybody else. He's given him an extra wiggle room to work with. This guy doesn't need any extra wiggle room. All that he needs, maybe, is to complain a bunch. And then he'll start being treated like the wide receiver one that he actually is. I'm talking about A.J. Brown. Look, my co-host here thought it was really funny when we were bowling this last Thursday night. During Thursday night football, while I was up to bowl, I come back and I'm desperate for points because I'm 0-1. And I come back after probably rolling a fucking gutter ball, and he says, "Hey man, don't worry about it. Your wide receiver just scored a touchdown, A.J. Brown." And I said, "Yeah." And then he says, "Psych, that was my guy, Devonta Smith." And I wanted to punch him. Listeners, I'm telling you, I wanted to punch him so bad, but I didn't do it. But
It's just,
I do believe.
Side note, which makes this story even better, is that I didn't realize Devonta Smith was on my squad. I forgot he was on my squad until I actually checked my the scores from the game the night before, and I was like, "Holy shit, this makes that even better!" It was terrific. It was terrific.
It somehow makes it even meaner. I don't know how. Don't ask me the logistics of it, but it does. Here's the thing with A.J. Brown, though. We talked about this. I know I've probably been annoying the shit out of people talking about this. Coming into the season, A.J. Brown is going to have up and down weeks. That's why him going right alongside Devontae Adams. Didn't make a lot of sense to me in ADP because it's a Devontae Adams smash every time because he's always involved. AJ Brown disappears sometimes. It's just what happens in this offense. It rotates who is the lead wide receiver. Let me just put this into context for you. He's the wide receiver 44 right now. That's bad. You didn't need that context. This is the context that maybe you need. In his first 6 games of last season, here's how he finished. Wide receiver 7. Yay. Wide receiver 39. Ooh. Wide receiver 13. Okay. Wide receiver 22. Okay. Wide receiver 68. Fuck. Wide receiver 11. And then the bye week, and then he kind of hits a stride. This isn't unprecedented for a guy like AJ Brown. You don't need to panic about AJ Brown. Yes, this is me talking to me as the guy who has him on his home team. It's also me saying realistically to all of you, AJ Brown is still going to do exactly what you drafted him to do. He's basically at this point, I would say a better version of Mike Evans, although Mike Evans just absolutely crushed in week 2. So maybe he's ahead of the curve still than AJ Brown is. But yeah, there's going to be a lot better days ahead for AJ Brown.
Absolutely. Don't worry. He's going to be fine. Like just don't worry about AJ. He's a stud. This offense, like we said earlier, there's going to be the weeks where it trades off. It just happened to be a bad week this week. Next week, he's probably going to come out and drop a 40 burger out there, and Devonta Smith will have like 7 points. So it's fine. It'll all work itself out. Just relax. All right, let's finish up this segment here with my wide receiver, and that is Jaylen Waddle. He is at wide receiver 37 in a row, and don't worry about him. Everything is going to be fine. And I know he's in the concussion protocol. Probably, there's a pretty good chance he's going to miss the game this week, but rest of the season, don't worry about him. Because we've seen first 2 years in the league, awesome, stud. He's been getting the targets. You got to love it. He's got 8 receptions for 164 yards over 2 games. That's not terrible. The thing that is missing is the touchdowns. So far, 3 out of 4 to his touchdowns have gone to Tyreek Hill. The other one is going to River Crackercraft. That's what I said. It sounds like a bird. Anyway, things will right themselves. Waddle will get his touchdowns. He's been getting targeted. He's getting the receptions. You got to like it. Just hold course. He will come back to what we expect of him. This offense is too good. And it's kind of like we were just saying with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. There's going to be weeks where it's Tyreek. So far, Tyreek has gotten the touchdowns. One of these weeks, it's going to be Waddle. You're going to be happy to have him on your squad. Do not overreact. He will be just fine later this season.
I agree. And I also needed to hear that. I think there's a lot of this 1A, 1B wide receiver business that people just forget what they signed up for sometimes. That's like, yeah, you're not going to get a guaranteed slam-a-damma dunk. That's what people say. Every week.
Slam-a-damma dunk?
Yeah, you're not going to get a slam-a-damma dunk every single week out of these guys. You got to ride the waves with them. And we just encourage you to do so.
Okay. Well, let's move on. We got week 3 here. Jake, any specific games on the schedule that you think are going to be juicy for fantasy that our listeners out there should tune into?
I don't think you're allowed to say that on a podcast. Juicy. That's too sultry for what we do here. But I do think that if there's a match that qualifies as the moistest of the lineup, all right, now I'm just being a dick. But I will say that I think the one that I'm looking forward to the most, just from a purely fantasy perspective, is the Chargers versus Vikings. For real NFL implications, too. They're both 0-2. So both fan bases, I know, are already stressed the hell out. But you have your elite of the elite wide receivers in the mix here. Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison. Oh my God. I was so ready to give your guy props that I mispronounced his name. My apologies. And even Mike Williams, like, it should just be aerial attack city. Austin Eckler being out is probably going to be the case, and that's unfortunate. But I don't think the backfields are really going to be the deciding factors here anyway. So I just can't wait to see both quarterbacks probably go into a shootout. I haven't looked at the over and under from Vegas on this one, but it has to be the highest of the slate, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would think so as well. And that was the game that I was looking at too. That I'm like, ooh, this has a lot of great fantasy players. Should be a very juicy matchup. A lot of fireworks because both those defenses are not very good. So yeah, that's really the one I was looking at. The other one that's a little interesting is the Monday night game with the Eagles and Bucks, both at 2-0. I know Eagles defense good, but the Buccaneers have been surprisingly good on offense. So that'll be an interesting one as well. I get a lot of fantasy pieces for that one. So a lot of players, or games that won't be decided until the Monday night slate, which always makes it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more juice to the week.
Yeah, we have a doubleheader again on Monday Night Football, which I'm fine with. People were griping about this. You're griping about this too, but I'm fine with it. I want football spread out more. This gives me more football throughout the week, just time-wise. I'm fine with it. I know people who have to go to bed super early aren't great about Monday night games. And I will say with the Eagles and Bucks, that is the other one that was on my list as well. And it's because it's not a game that I'm comfortable starting Baker Mayfield because I don't trust him in Monday Night Football more than I don't trust him against the Eagles. I just don't trust him on Monday Night Football. So this is kind of like a prove it situation, probably to me only. Everybody else is fine with it. But Baker, you got to prove yourself to me and me only on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Concur. All right. So we'll get into our starts of the week here. Jake, last week you had your start of the week as Jamal Williams. Left the game in the first quarter due to injury, so we can't really...
Such a bummer.
That one's inconclusive. Sounds like he's probably going to miss at least this next week, maybe a couple. It's disappointing. Love that merman. I had Darren Waller going against Arizona. Finished as tight end 4 at 13.6. Respectable. Again, tight end position, not hard to finish in the top 5. So while it sounds great, I will definitely take it. It was just nice to see that Giants offense got back on track a little bit. And one of the guys we're very high on going into this season get on track as well, especially after that abysmal week 1. So like that. So Jake, moving into this week, who is your start of the week?
It's worked out so well for me. Talking about running backs in this segment. The one finishes mediocrely in week 1. The one doesn't finish week 2. It's the laws of threes, which means that it has to go better this week, I think is how I understand that law anyways. I'm talking about Josh Jacobs, and he's going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to give Josh Jacobs managers a little bit of assurance, if I may. I know that you're scared. I would be too if I had him on many teams. He's looked a very poopy throughout the first 2 weeks. Hasn't even cracked 100 yards rushing throughout the first 2 weeks. Yeah, that's bad. The salve for Josh Jacobs, for probably any running back at this point, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have been bad against the rushing game, giving up 330 rushing yards so far, not to even talk about other dump-offs that teams have been able to give against them. This is Josh Jacobs' wheelhouse. He's had 69% of the rushing attempts so far. Nice. And he's been very involved in the passing game as well. He's running plenty of routes. They're going to utilize him. Devontae Adams hopefully is playing. I know he got a little dinged up there in week 2. If he plays, if he doesn't play, it doesn't even have that much bearing on Josh Jacobs himself. I just expect him to get right here in a big way. I'm looking for a top 10 finish here by week's end.
Nice. My start of the week is one Calvin Ridley, someone I said after week 1, I'm sorry, came down to earth this last week. I'll just take that as a weird one-off game. I mean, he did have 8 targets, which is great. Love to see that. He had 11 targets in week 1. Didn't have a touchdown. It was just, I think, kind of an off game for him. You can see that Trevor Lawrence, this is going to be a get right game for him as well for that whole offense. As you're talking about with Trevor earlier, nothing to worry about there. He'll be fine. Calvin Ridley's goes as Trevor goes. They're going against Houston, and they're not great defense. So I feel like this is a get right game for them. Calvin Ridley is going to return to fantasy greatness and be in the top 12 with ease.
I like it. I like it. I like it more than what's about to happen, because I just feel like I should sign up to lose already, the way that things have been going, and just plan to take a shot next week. That's what I think I should do.
Yeah, and I was looking, I'll be honest. I was looking at that particular game, believe it or not, as the beer bet for the week with the running back room. Let's do it. Do you truly believe in Josh Jacobs and want to go him versus Najee?
Okay, what's pretty fucked up about this is I had Najee Harris as my start of the week initially, and I switched it to Josh Jacobs just looking at the matchups. You're putting me in a pretty tough spot there, my guy, but look, I'll be a man of my word. I'll do that. So Josh Jacobs versus Najee Harris, or backfield versus backfield?
No, we're going Najee versus Jacobs.
All right, perfect. Yeah. Oh, that makes it even better for me, actually. Yes, I will absolutely take the Josh Jacobs side in this, but I expect great things from Najee Harris this week. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah. So, he's your start of the week. You're going with him. I like that for you. I mean, it's going to be great for me when I it's going to be like, RB4 and RB5, like it's going to be close, but I'm just going to eke you out again. Just to keep this streak going here of beer bets to start the season.
I could see it.
Or, I'm just talking out my ass and talking big, and I'll be eating crow come next Tuesday at this time, which is also a very good possibility.
Beer bets just aren't my thing, clearly, this year. I'm talking week to week. I took a peek back at our season-long ones that we have started already. And again, I know it's early. We talk about not overreacting, but holy shit, those all look pretty bad for me right now. Yikes.
Yeah, I honestly forget about those until the off season, which is good because I don't want to have to worry about those while we're in season here. So yeah, just do yourself a favor and don't continue to look at those. Any last words here, Jake, before we sign off? A little bit shorter show this week, but that's okay.
Yeah, look, as my wife tells me, it doesn't always have to be long. It's fine. It's completely fine that it's not. So I'm going to hold ourselves to that same standard. I will say I'm looking forward to next week. We have projected for next week a little bit of a face-off overall thing. It's going to be kind of like our beer bets, but taken to extreme, as we do a little bit of who'd you rather that we also factor into kind of a beer bet style thing. So it's going to be pretty massive. I'm excited for next week and the week after, when one of us has to pay that whole thing off. So lots of fun stuff coming up here on the podcast, and I'm just psyched for it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, everyone, hit us up for any fantasy advice you need. Hit my partner up here at Jake Trowbridge. You can hit the podcast at Drinking Fantasy. Hit me up at FF Dusty Dog. Leave comments anywhere, DMs. Hit our YouTube page. Leave a comment there on any one of our videos. We'll see it. We'll respond. Give us the drunk trades, please. And not just the ones you win. Give us any of them. We like to talk about it all. It's good fun. And that's what we're here for, to have some fun. And if you can't make fun of yourself every once in a while for making a bad decision while drinking, well, you need to lighten up, because you should be able to.
Lighten up everybody. That's our big takeaway from today's episode.
As always, folks, give us a rate and review, subscribe, 5 stars, all that good stuff that I tell you to do each and every single week. And good luck on week 3. May the fantasy gods be with you. And with all the NFL players, apparently. So no more injuries, please. And until next week, keep checking and talking fantasy football.
Cheers, FFers.